Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using Paper Rose Studios' Christmas Night Collection. It's Christmas in July and I've been having so much fun making Christmas cards. I'm using the Christmas Night 6x6 paper collection, but it's also available in the 12x12 size. I'll go through the papers quickly so you can get an idea of what's included. There are 18 double-sided pattern papers. A couple of the sheets have cut apart images and sentiments, and I will be using just a few of them on my cards. There are also a few designs that have very large patterns. It's a little trickier to use those large images on A2 size cards, but they'd be perfect if you make larger cards. For my cards today, I will be using a few of those large images. I also have the coordinating die cut pack. There are 4 A5 sheets, and these all have pop-out die cuts, so you don't need to do any fussy cutting. After I pop out all of the die cut pieces, I use a pair of scissors and trim off that tiny white tab. You don't have to, it's just a personal preference. The pack includes lots of beautiful images. You can create your Christmas night nativity scene, and there are also a bunch of sentiments that work perfectly with the collection. For a couple of the cards, I will be using pattern paper from the Golden Basics collection. I believe this paper collection has been retired, at least here in the US. I think it's still available on Paper Rose's website, and I will have links in the description box for all of the products I use. For the background of my card, selected this lovely paper, white on the background with some gray and blue stars. And that paper is from the Golden Basics paper collection. I thought it would look beautiful with one of the Christmas night images. I layered the background pattern paper on some dark gray cardstock, put adhesive on the back, and adhered my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Then I added a wide strip of the light wood grain panel across the card, a little closer to the bottom. For the main image on my card, I cut down the panel that has the 3 wise men, and I'll layer that piece on the same dark gray cardstock. Before adhering the image piece on the card, I will put some scrap pattern paper pieces above and below where it goes over that wood grain strip. That way it stays at the same level. Now I'll add a few of the die cut pieces. I have the sentiment, "Oh come, let us adore him." I'll adhere it on the left side of the card, and I'm also adding 2 of the star die cut images. Sometimes when I have those narrow strips of pattern paper left over, I'll adhere them on the inside of the card, just for a little extra detail. So there is my finished card, and I made 3 using this design. The other 2 cards feature cut apart sentiments. The next 2 card designs are super simple. Really wanted to feature some of the larger images. I cut down the pattern paper piece that has the large nativity scene. This is 5 1/4 inches by 4 inches. I'll layer it on some brown cardstock, and that layer is an additional 1/8 of an inch. So 5 3/8 of an inch by 4 1/8 of an inch. Then I'll add that piece on some brown watercolor pattern paper. And this pattern paper is from the Golden Basics collection. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. Just for a little extra detail, I'm adding a narrow strip of the brown pattern paper on the left side of the card. This is about 1/4 of an inch wide. And I did put some double-sided adhesive tape on the back to adhere it in place. Now I'll add one of the sentiment die cuts, Silent Night, Holy Night. I'm adhering it in the upper left-hand corner, and since the left side of the sentiment is sitting on that narrow brown cardstock strip, I'll add a small cardstock piece on the right side of the sentiment. Then I'll put glue on the back and adhere it in place. For a final finishing touch, I'm adding one of the small star die cuts above Baby Jesus. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. Now moving on to card design number 3. For the background of my card, I have some of the brown watercolor paper, and it's hard to see, but on that background there's also some words. I think the words are Christmas song lyrics. On the right side I can see "Away in the Manger." At the bottom of this panel, I'm adding a 1-inch strip of the light green watercolor paper. Then I'll put adhesive on the back and add my card front onto a card base. This card will be featuring one of the larger die cut pieces, a beautiful nativity scene. I will be popping it up with some foam dimension. I'm using scrapbook.com's 1/4 inch foam in the 1mm thickness. I love this foam. It's not too thick, just enough to pop up an image or sentiment, but thin enough to still be able to mail the card without paying additional postage. I'll also be popping up the sentiment "Christmas Blessings." Almost adhered it on upside down. I'll put the sentiment in the upper left-hand corner. And for this card, I will be adding some embellishments. I'm using Paper Rose's Clear Crystal Shaker Mix. I poured a small amount in a wooden bowl. This mix has 4 different sizes. I'm using the 2 middle sizes. I'll put 3 around the sentiment in the upper left-hand corner and 2 in the lower right-hand corner. I'll first add a small drop of Barely Art glue, and I'm picking up the crystals using the wax tip end of scrapbook.com's Craft Pro Pick tool. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 4, I'm using a brand new die set from Paper Rose. This is their Vintage Labels set number 1. I used it to cut out the image and also the background layer. Although I didn't cut out that full label, I'm using only about half of it. I'll layer the 2 pieces together, so you'll only see the blue outline on the right, top, and bottom. The image will be flush on the left side of the card. For the background of the card, selected the pattern paper with lots of lovely angel images. I'm adding a strip of the light wood grain pattern paper. Then I'll layer the background on some brown cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base. I'll be adding the image of Mary, Joseph, and Baby Jesus in the upper left-hand corner. Before adhering it down, I will put a scrap cardstock piece behind that image, just in the upper area where it goes off of that wood grain strip. Then I'll put glue on the back and adhere it in place, making sure that left edge is all the way flush on the angel pattern paper. For a sentiment, I'm adding Merry Christmas. This is one of the sentiment die cut pieces. I put double-sided adhesive tape on the back, and I'll adhere it in the lower right-hand corner of the wood grain panel. To finish off the card, I'm adding 3 of the star die cut images. Put 1 above Baby Jesus and 2 in the lower left-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. This is one of my favorite cards from the whole set. I love the beautiful images and soft colors. For card design number 5, I am using a card sketch for inspiration. This is from Cards TV. It's sketch number 45. And if you are interested in this sketch with measurements, I do have it listed on my coordinating blog post. The link is in the description box below, or you can simply head over to KristieMarcotte.com. For the background of my card, using the brown watercolor paper, but I didn't have a large enough panel to fit all the way on the background, so instead I cut down the piece that I do have, and since I know I'll be covering up the very center with the other pattern paper, no one will know I didn't have a full panel. After adding the 2 brown watercolor pieces, I'll put adhesive on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Now I'll fill in the gap area using a scrap piece of pattern paper. For the featured pattern paper, it has lots of small nativity images, and I layered it on some brown cardstock. I'll add that piece on the front of the card. On the left side of the card, that narrow 1-inch strip, I used some of the light green watercolor pattern paper, layered it on some green cardstock from my stash. Before adhering it down, I will put those scrap cardstock pieces above and below the nativity pattern paper. That way it stays at the same level. I'll put glue on the back and adhere it in place. I am changing up the design of this card sketch, so I won't have a sentiment at the bottom. Instead, I'll add one of the cut apart sentiments from the paper pad, and I'm putting it in the upper left-hand corner. Silent Night, Holy Night. And I've already layered it on the same brown cardstock. Before adhering it down, I'll put all those little cardstock layers and also some foam on the right side. And I'll put glue on the left side and adhere it in place. At the bottom of the card, I'm adding Baby Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. These are some of the die cut pieces. Put glue on the back and adhere them in place. I also wanted to add this large star. I really want it above Baby Jesus, so I was trying to find a good placement for it. I'll adhere it on the very right side of the sentiment cut apart. I will put some foam dimension on the right side of the star and glue on the back of the left side of the star. Then I'll adhere it in place. For a final finishing touch, I'm adding 3 of the small crystals in the upper right-hand corner. First, add that small drop of Barely Art glue. Pick them up using the wax tip end of Scrapbook.com's Craft Pro Pick tool and adhere them in place. And since I am using glue, I have a little bit of wiggle time to get those 3 crystals all nice straight in a row. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. Now here's another look at the 11 cards I made using Paper Rose Studios Christmas Night collection. I used the 6x6 paper along with the coordinating die cut pack. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. Paper Rose is located in Australia, and they do ship their products internationally, but you can also purchase them here in the US, and I have links for both locations listed below. Coming soon, I will be sharing a video using Paper Rose's Holy Night collection. I have the 6x6 paper pad and also the coordinating die cut pack. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.